Persona 4 Arena Ultimax is a game I've had my eye on for a long time, ever since the game was released on Steam in 2022 and given an update that added rollback netcode. Ultimax is both an update and a sequel to Persona 4 Arena, which released in 2012. Near the end of last year, I resolved to get into this game, but I never really found the time to sit down and actually play it. Having finally sunk my teeth into it, I can say that this is one of the most fun fighting games I've ever learned. It's such a fast and responsive game with so many cool systems and a really neat approach to adapting different mechanics from the RPGs that the game is based on and making them more palatable for a fighting game, such as the status ailment system that I actually made a video on last year. That said, now I'd like to focus on the roster of this game. P4AU has 22 characters, and all of them bring something different to the table. This game in BlazBlue always stood out to me as shining examples of Arc System Works' sheer creativity when it comes to designing inventive characters. Everyone in P4AU has something interesting going on when examined on their own and even when compared to the games that they're originally from. The appeal of seeing pre-existing power sets adapted from their original medium into fighting game movesets is reflected in other licensed fighting games that I enjoy like Dragon Ball FighterZ and JoJo Heritage for the Future, but with Persona 4 Arena's roster consisting of characters who were once playable in a JRPG before becoming fighting game characters and using specials and supers based on skills from said RPGs, you can see how cool it is in that context. Today, I'd like to treat myself, so I'm doing the opposite of what I did with Heritage. Instead of saving my favorite for last, we're doing him first, so let's talk about Naoto Shirogane. And what a character to start with. In Persona 4, Naoto is the last member of the party to join and specializes in light and dark elements. For the uninitiated, the main gimmick of light and dark attacks, particularly those of the Hama and Mudo variety, is that they don't do direct damage, but instead have a chance to instantly kill an enemy. I can't really imagine how you would translate this specific mechanic into a fighting game without it being pretty uninteresting and potentially unfair, but ArcSys went for a different interpretation that forms the crux of Naoto's main gimmick. Naoto's kit primarily revolves around facilitating a game plan that involves slow pace and meticulous control of space. Personally speaking, I find her to be one of the most unconventional characters I've ever learned in any FG, but she's an absolute blast regardless. With that said, let's get into that moveset, and since I've never really talked about this game before, I'll try to cover any mechanics that need introducing as best I can, so apologies if this is a bit slow in some places. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce Naoto's unique gimmick before we get anywhere, since it's extremely important to evaluating many of her moves. Under the opponent's life bar is a skull with a number next to it that only appears when they're fighting Naoto. This is called the fate counter. Many of Naoto's normals, specials, and supers will remove counts from the number, which always begins at 13 from the start of a match. All these moves have a fixed amount of fate that gets taken off when they connect, but if you use multiple moves that deplete fate in a combo, only the first one that lands will remove its original value, and all subsequent fate depleting attacks that hit will only remove one. What happens when it goes down fully is something I'll cover later, but just keep in mind for now that when weighing the strength of Naoto's moves, it's important to keep in mind not just damage or frame data, but also how efficient they are for lowering the fate counter. Getting back on track, Persona 4 Arena has a 4-button layout, A, B, C, and D. Impossible! For most of the roster, A and B are attacks your character performs themselves, and C and D are normals where the character summons their persona to attack. Starting with 5A, this is Naoto's fastest normal on the ground, starting up in 6 frames, slightly slower than some other characters who have a 5-framer as their fastest button, but also faster than, say, Margaret, whose fastest button starts up in 7. Naoto's 5A is best used as a tool for Abare and to quickly start her offense if she needs to get in. It doesn't have the best range, but the sheer speed makes it well suited to situations where you need a fast grounded button that can quickly be converted into offense, especially thanks to the auto combo attached to it. Yes, Persona 4 Arena and Ultimax both have auto combos, which, along with the fact that the motion inputs in this game are all quarter circles, are clear attempts to make this game a bit more beginner friendly. I actually don't mind the auto combos in this game that much. They don't come out on whiff, only hit or block, which is something I appreciate after so much time dealing with Dragon Ball FighterZ auto combos often being very strong and obnoxious one-button scramble tools. Naoto's auto combo comprises of 2 hits that come out after the initial 5A starter, which makes hit confirming 5A much easier. The second hit is a low, which can catch people looking out for strings into her overhead special Double Fangs, and on top of being special cancelable, it's also jump cancelable, which lets her go for some tricky mix with an air normal. The second hit is -2, so it can be an effective tick throw setup. After the 3 hits of the auto combo, continuing to mash A will have your character do a special, and if you have the meter, it'll cancel into a super, so make sure you don't get too mash happy if you don't want to give up your bar. 2A is Naoto's fastest low at 7 frames, and naturally makes for a good pressure tool since it's fast and safe. You can delay it to create stagger pressure, or use the low block stun to tick throw. It's a good normal, but the unfortunate trade-off is that it scales like crazy as a combo starter, so it's not the best idea to splurge your resources off a 2A starter unless you know for sure you can secure the round, since you'll hardly be getting worthwhile damage. 5B is a normal I've come to like quite a lot. It's a long-range 9-frame poke, which is very useful in her grounded neutral. The already strong hitbox is enhanced by Naoto's forward movement during the animation, giving it great reach. It's also one of her best combo starters owing to high base damage and minimal scaling, which is always useful in situations where you can't use her persona normals. 5B as well as 5C can both be dash cancelled on hit or block, with 5B being -7 on block from a dash cancel and 5C being -2. Used as an occasional pressure reset, 5C dash cancels ain't bad, but they're generally reactable, so anyone paying attention or just mashing in general will be able to hit you out of it. 2B acts as the primary normal anti-air for the cast, typically coming with invul against head attribute attacks, which is basically all air normals as well as being air unblockable. However, the quality of a 2B can vary between members of the cast. While I appreciate the animation for hers coming with a delightful smear frame, Naoto's 2B is comparatively stubby versus a lot of others, which can result in the normal whiffing, clashing, or losing outright in anti-air situations, particularly against very strong jump-in normals like Adachi JC.
I'll play with you.
The invul is also rather limited. The move becomes invulnerable against head attribute attacks on frame 6, and that invul doesn't even last past the first active frame. These factors can make 2B difficult to use, so timing is everything if you don't want it to get stuffed. Thankfully, her 2B is pretty rewarding on hit when it lands, especially off a counter hit. Counter hit 2B combos can allow Naoto to get good damage and score some good screen positioning as well as take away fate.
Persona. Time to move.
Naoto's 2 non-persona air normals, JA and JB, are both very useful. JA is 6 frame startup and can be chained into itself up to 3 times, and JB is 7 frame startup and comes with a slightly longer ranged hitbox. Both are good for jump-in pressure, but where they really shine is air-to-airing and combos. Naoto is able to control air presence very well thanks to the range of these 2 normals, and that also makes her air combos very consistent. Getting airtime in this game is pretty easy, as you have double jumps, super jumps, and air dashes, so JA and JB are helpful for letting Naoto protect herself during that airtime. Naoto's C and D buttons are persona normals, as mentioned before. Persona normals tend to be much slower but cover a wider area of range, which can be especially useful for Naoto due to the aforementioned stubby nature of some of her buttons. While hitting a persona by itself will not harm the user, it will deplete from your cards. The cards, located below the health bar, are effectively a life bar for the persona, and if all of them are lost, the character will enter persona break status, where they lose access to any actions that use the persona, including normals, specials, supers, and their burst for a short while. So try to avoid that. Anyway, 5C is pretty good.
How's this?
It's a fairly short-ranged button compared to her other C and D normals, so it's mainly used for close range pressure and combos. 5C can be cancelled into specials and into jumps, which allows Naoto to use it for frame traps and mix-ups. 5C is also notable for being a great combo starter thanks in part to its high base damage of 640. It's outshined by held 2C in terms of raw damage output, but 5C is much faster, which makes it more practical in many situations. 5C has good range, but it also has a shitload of recovery, so it's best not to whiff this lest you lose a card or otherwise eat a nasty punish. Speaking of 2C, this is one of my favorites, an excellent poke that sports some of the best range of any normal in Naoto's kit. 2C is a great whiff punish and acts as a way of stuffing any approaches from the ground and knocking the opponent away, letting her set up her zone in game. If the button is held down, 2C will become enhanced at the cost of longer startup. Held 2C trades off much slower startup speed for higher damage, better frame advantage, it's +8 on block compared to regular 2C being -14, and most importantly, it leaves the opponent grounded on hit and is guaranteed a fatal counter on counter hit.
Nice try. Do it.
Fatal counters are a special kind of counter hit that cause the opponent to incur extra hit stun and untechable time on every hit for the duration of a combo, allowing for routes that wouldn't work on a normal counter hit. Ignoring some special circumstances like the fear ailment, fatal counters generally occur in one of two situations. There are certain moves that are programmed so that if the character is hit during any point of that attack, they'll always be fatal countered, even if you hit them with a 5A or a 2A. This state is known as fatal recovery. On the other hand, there are specific moves where if they connect as a counter hit, they will guaranteed cause a fatal counter instead. These kinds of moves are called fatal starters. Fatal starters and moves with fatal recovery vary between the casts, so keep that in mind for your sake. Anyway, Naoto's Held 2C is indeed one of her fatal starters. Since it's so damn slow to start up, the amount of stuff it can punish is a bit limited, but against high recovery moves like DPs and supers, this baby will give Naoto access to seriously great reward. The extra hit stun gives her very high damage routes with one of her specials, Blight, during Held 2C fatal starter combos, which is her key to the big stuff. I'll get into that more when we talk about her specials though. It's also a great meaty and pressure reset thanks to the high frame advantage on block. To really sweeten the deal on this button, 2C will remove 1 fate from the fate counter on hit. Held 2C removes 2 on hit.
Do it! Go!
Only thing to bear in mind is that 2C, whether held or not, has quite a lot of recovery. Even if you won't always get directly punished for a poorly spaced 2C, whiffing this move will likely cost you a card, and Naoto only has 4 to spare. Naoto 5D is a unique normal used to attack from very long distances. After hitting the D button, she sends her persona out. During this period, it's intangible and thus cannot be hit. Afterward, it'll linger for a short period, and during this period is when you can hit D again to have it perform an attack.
Please!
The attack itself does great damage if all 3 hits connect and can be comboed out of 2. It's also highly plus on block and allows Naoto to get in and set up her pressure. As a method of space control, it's great, and used in tandem with some of her other tools like traps and gunshots, it's a good way to bait people into overcommitting while trying to get in on Naoto, which she can potentially punish. Naoto can perform a slower version of this move with 4D instead. The main issue with this button is the rather long period of time Naoto needs to wait to be able to actually do the attack, during which she's locked out of other persona actions. It's definitely a move that Naoto needs space to set up, but once she has that space, it lets her enforce very strong pressure and improves her screen presence. Naoto's JC is an amazing jump normal. While JA and JB are great for defensive air-to-airs, JC acts as a grade A jump-in with a huge hitbox that hits from very high up and has enough hit stun to usually guarantee a combo, be it after a normal jump or an air dash. In terms of being aggressive, this is one of your most effective approaching tools, as well as a mix-up tool. After a JC is blocked, usually very late, Naoto can set up a fuzzy overhead mix-up. The basic gist is that if the opponent blocks the JC deep enough, she can double jump and perform a JA soon after. Ordinarily, the opponent would be able to switch to crouch block to avoid the JA, but the JC forces them into block stun for long enough that they're still considered standing by the game, even if they're down backing, which makes them vulnerable to getting hit by the double overhead. It's a very strong mix-up that allows Naoto a very high damage combo if it hits, and she can also go low with 2A to create a high-low, adding another layer to the setup. JD is also pretty solid, not as abusable as JC, but it sports pretty good range.
Do it!
Naoto's JD flies out a good distance in front of her, allowing it to be used as a strong air-to-air, and it knocks the opponent far away enough to let her go into zoning or set down a trap. That's Naoto's normals down, but we can't get into the specials quite yet. First, let's talk about her sweep. Sweeps are universally done via 2AB. They hit low, cause a techable knockdown, they're special and super cancelable, and have invulnerability against chest attribute attacks, which can be very useful for counter poking. Naoto's own sweep fulfills these purposes while also acting as one of her longest range non-persona normals. 5AB on the other hand performs what's known as an all-out attack, named after a mechanic from the Persona games, and acts as a universal overhead with 2 enders that allows for a combo on hit and has guard point against strikes.
Not enough.
Every character has one, but they are not entirely the same between every character. There are differences in speed, range, and when the guard point begins during the animation. Naoto's is notably fast, starting up in 26 frames, which makes it more effective than some others at actually mixing the opponent up, although 26 frames is still pretty slow, so this can be blocked on reaction fairly easily. You definitely have faster options for an overhead, but none with guard point, which can make all-out attacks a decent tool to call out mashing. All-out attacks can be followed up with an all-out attack rush on hit, and after that you can either do the C ender that launches the opponent into the air, or the D ender that knocks the opponent onto the wall and wall bounces if all the hits of the rush connect. Both of these enders can also inflict fatal counter status, although the D ender only inflicts it if all of the hits of the all-out attack rush connect beforehand. For Naoto, the D ender is the main ender she wants to use, because even if she isn't close enough to the wall for the wall bounce, you can always combo off of it with her snipe special move.
Okay.
You can score high damage if an all-out attack hits, but if it's blocked, you're punishable, so don't be predictable. You can use one more cancel, which is basically a Roman cancel, to keep it safe, but that also costs 50 meter, and meter is definitely not something Naoto wants to spend carelessly. Furious actions are the game's universal reversal, done with B plus D. Every character has one, but like with all-out attacks, there are differences in the finer details between characters. A lot of FAs are simple DPs, some are counters, but regardless, all furious actions universally incur a cost of blue health. Blue health can be recovered after a short amount of time, but if you get hit, it'll all be gone. Naoto's furious action is Shield of Justice. It's a counter that works against strikes, throws, and projectiles. While the initial shield itself doesn't do anything, getting attacked while the shield is up allows Naoto to perform 3 different follow-ups. Pressing any of your 4 normal buttons without holding a direction will fire a burst that pops the opponent up, while holding forward and pressing a button will fire a bullet that knocks the opponent very far away.
No way! Nothing seems amiss. No way! All too easy.
The latter is my favorite follow-up thanks to the space it gives Naoto, but unfortunately it has a rather big issue with the hitbox. Attacks that are low enough to the ground can actually cause this follow-up to whiff, which leaves Naoto punishable.
I assumed as much. Gotcha.
Besides these two, Naoto can perform a defensive backdash follow-up by holding back and pressing a button. All of these can be delayed after the counter is activated, so you have a bit of leeway on deciding which one to use in specific situations. If the counter gets baited altogether, well then you're kind of fucked. Naoto's furious action is an extremely strong tool for her, and a big reason for this is the fate count it can take off. The neutral follow-up takes away 3 fate on hit, and the forward follow-up takes away 2. Considering this is a strong tool to get people off of her, the fact that Naoto can also chip away at the fate counter with it is excellent. The forward follow-up also pierces through other projectiles, which makes it a potent anti-zoning tool. This is an essential tool in her kit, even if it can be pretty inconsistent defensively. Sometimes the follow-ups just don't work in situations where you need them to. Naoto's grab causes the opponent to stagger before falling to the ground. During this period, you can hit C or D for a follow-up that Naoto can combo off of. This follow-up is almost always preferred to letting the opponent just crumble, since it takes away 1 fate and enables pretty high damage off a grab, which makes Naoto's strike throw very rewarding. Her air grab is another solid air-to-air in her catalog and can be picked up into a combo with a 1 more cancel for some quick and simple damage. Nothing special, but always welcomed. Now, onto Naoto's specials. This is where things get fun. The Detective Prince is blessed with a fairly unconventional but well-rounded set of tools to run her game plan. 236A or B is Double Fangs, which comprises 2 hits, the second of which is an overhead.
Not bad. Time to move.
The A version starts up quite fast, with the first hit coming out in 10 frames, and while the slight delay between hits makes the overhead more reactable, it can still be a nice surprise option in block strings if the opponent is blocking low to keep themselves safe from stuff like 2A and the second hit of auto combo. B Double Fangs is significantly slower, but it bounces the opponent up on hit, making it one of her primary options for combo extensions, especially in the corner. The A version can also be used in combos. Fangs is a solid special that allows Naoto to access stylish and damaging combo routes while giving her a nice occasional mix-up to keep people on their toes. 236A plus B will perform an enhanced version of the special at the cost of 25 meter. It's basically an EX move system, and with EX Fangs you effectively get all the perks of the B version, but with faster startup and more hit stun, as well as better corner carry.
Go! Time to move.
Not bad, but in terms of meter usage, it's outclassed by other options. The most notable property of Double Fangs is that all grounded versions will put Naoto into her other main non-persona special, Aim Stance. This stance is key to Naoto's zoning, pressure, and even defense. Outside of Double Fangs, you can enter the stance manually with her 214 specials. 214A is the fastest of the 3 stance entries.
Freeze! Time to move.
214B adds a backflip to the mix that tremendously delays the time it takes to enter the stance, but also has some invincibility.
Long range shot. Time to move.
On frame 6 of 214B, Naoto becomes fully invincible, but on the 16th frame it transitions into only being projectile invul until frame 28, and she fully enters the stance on frame 34. Despite these limitations and the slow speed, this is a genuinely useful way to create distance or otherwise retreat into her zoning. Finally, the EX version has Naoto perform a roll that can cross the opponent up.
Point blank.
This special also has full invul from frames 4 to 22, and since she can escape the corner with it, it can make for a good surprise defensive option to get out of bad spots. Pressing D will allow Naoto to manually exit the stance. Anyway, once Naoto is in the stance, she gains access to Snipe, her main projectile. Hitting A, B, or C will have Naoto fire bullets from her revolver. A fires them directly forward, B fires them at the ground, causing them to ricochet upward at an angle if they don't hit the opponent, and C will fire them diagonally upward. Naoto can fire up to 5 bullets, with the final one out of the chamber being more powerful than the others and having a stronger effect on hit, in addition to removing one fate. The final shot of the C snipe is useful as it causes a wall bounce, which allows Naoto to pick up a combo afterward, making it vital in her routes mid-screen. Part of why it's a good zoning tool is because you can change the angle of fire while shooting. If you fire your first 2 bullets with the A button and see the opponent jump, you can switch to C to fire the last 3 bullets upward for a chance to hit them while they're in the air. As great as it is to be able to cover numerous angles, some jump angles directly above are still not really possible to cover, so sometimes it's better to just leave the stance instead of eating a counter hit jumping from above an angle where she can fire. As a combo ender, bullets are very useful for damage and meter build and give Naoto a good situation after the hit that lets her go for meaties or set up a trap, and she can use them to confirm from pokes like 2C into great reward. Since Double Fangs goes directly into the stance on the ground, you can occasionally catch people trying to take their turn back on block with a slightly delayed snipe to have them eat a face full of bullets. Naoto can also fire an EX bullet that mimics the 5th shot of a meterless chamber and can be aimed in any of the 3 angles, which can make for a good combo extender in some routes. All of these EX bullets take away 2 fate on hit, even if used in the middle of a combo. There's a lot of utility to Snipe. It's an excellent special, but it has a catch, one you'll definitely feel the weight of at some point. Naoto has a limited bullet count. She can fire up to 5 bullets at a time. After that, she enters a cooldown period where the bullets recharge. You can't save bullets for later. If you fire one shot and exit the stance before firing the other, she'll enter the cooldown regardless.
Freeze! Time to move.
The length of said cooldown is dependent on how many bullets are left in the chamber, so if you use all 5 at once, it'll take a while before you can use the snipe again, but if you use just one, the cooldown goes by pretty fast. Certainly something to keep in mind, sometimes it's better to just save the bullets and take the fast recharge instead of emptying the full clip, such as in pressure situations where the opponent is already blocking during snipe. Pressing 6D while in the aim stance releases a short-ranged burst that knocks the opponent away.
Freeze! It's time to move!
It's a good way to finish combos when you don't have or don't want to spend bullets since it doesn't consume them. You can EX this baby to fire an actual projectile that travels super fast, pierces other non-EX projectiles, and again, doesn't cost bullets. The meterless 6D snipe follow-up takes away 1 fate and the EX takes away 2. The main use of the stance is the bullets indeed, but the actual stance cancel itself can be useful in pressure too. Naoto's stance cancels are minus out of her buttons or double fangs, but if an opponent isn't willing to try and take their turn back, you can use it for some cool pressure resets and even sneak in throws. It's fake as hell but feels cool as shit to do, and if they start pressing buttons to escape the pressure resets, you can use bullets to beat their mashing. Conditioning is key here. It's very important to be on top of your bullet count as Naoto, since she has to change certain aspects of her game plan when she doesn't have bullets on hand. Without bullets, you can't really zone, so you'll have to adjust the way that you play neutral, and your combos will change too. Oh yeah, and one more thing, be aware that Naoto takes some time to automatically exit the stance, so make sure you're always hitting D to exit manually after using grounded double fangs in a combo or using all the bullets. 236C or D performs Blight, where Naoto's persona flies upward at an angle to attack. Blight is notable for inflicting poison on hit. Poison is one of many status ailments in this game. I made a video about all of them as it's one of my favorite mechanics in Persona 4 Arena, but the basic gist is that when a status ailment is inflicted, its effects will be felt for a short time, or until the character with the ailment lands a hit on the opponent. Poison is a fairly self-explanatory one. While it's active on a character, they'll take small amounts of passive damage. This is particularly important for Blight because of this move's utility. First up, 236C is a prime anti-air. Unlike the stubby 2B, C Blight has quite a bit of range, plus head attribute invul and a strong angle that allows it to reliably clear the skies. Unfortunately, C Blight suffers from a speed issue, having 15 frame startup. Since Naoto's persona can act after Blight recovers, it's a very rewarding anti-air to land in terms of damage, especially when combined with the snipe. D and EX Blight are not anti-airs, instead they're combo tools that allow for very stylish routes that do a ton of damage. This is mainly because of Blight's poison effect. You see, poison damage occurs in tandem with combo damage, so while Naoto's own attacks are doing damage in the combo, the Blight poison is also working down their health. Certain routes apply it multiple times per combo, usually in routes that start with fatal counter held to C, which I previously brought up as our best combo starter. The extra hit stun from the fatal counter enables certain combos that wouldn't work otherwise to connect, as well as a link directly into D Blight from fatal counter held to C, and thanks to that, you can absolutely melt health bars. These Blight loops offer Naoto some of her best damage and make a baited DP or super extra costly against her. Poison also ignores the defensive boost from Awakening, but I'll get to that later. The final Naoto special to discuss is 214C or D, Hair Trigger Megiddo, commonly referred to as just Trap. Traps are an essential tool for Oki and Neutral. These babies are basically landmines that control portions of the stage and demand respect from the opponent. C traps will linger in the air while D traps lie on the ground. These traps start off invisible and intangible, but once a character walks close enough to them, they'll be revealed for mortal eyes to comprehend and hopefully avoid running into. They also become destructible once revealed.
How about this?
The C traps are great for covering awkward anti-air angles that Naoto will have to deal with during her zoning. A well-placed C Megiddo can be the difference between taking a combo from a jump-in and aim stance and being able to safely exit the stance and avoid taking a hit. Otherwise, these are amazing in general for keeping people out, allowing Naoto to enforce her zoning or stall while waiting for bullets to refresh. Between these, the bullets, and her 2C, Naoto becomes a wall of bullshit on screen that some characters have a real hard time navigating through. As an Oki tool, they can be very effective for letting Naoto generate plus frames and force mix-ups. What really makes the traps stand out is that on hit, they remove Fate. 3 for the C traps, 4 for the D traps. Running into these is so detrimental for the opponent, which means you can use that foreknowledge to influence how your opponent moves while there are traps on the screen and punish them if they overextend while trying to avoid or destroy a trap. There's a hard limit of 3 traps that are allowed to be on screen, and it's any trap. If you have 3 C traps on screen and plant a D one, the D trap replaces the oldest C trap. EX trap doesn't pick up any new properties. Instead, Naoto places one of each kind of trap on screen at once. It's significantly faster to start up and recover, and it also causes Naoto to fall to the ground faster if used in the air. While it's not always ideal since you can't displace the traps among different areas of the screen like normal, sometimes it's just the safest way to plant a trap. Meterless Megiddo has lengthy startup and recovery, and in matchups with characters who are strong at fighting from a distance like Yukari or Ken, it can be pretty difficult to find the chance to drop a regular trap without getting sniped for it unless you're doing it after hitting the opponent away with 2C or something. The speed really does make a difference. Oh yeah, and all traps on screen will vanish if Naoto is hit or techs a throw.
Elementary!
I love these moves personally. They're my favorite Naoto special and make her feel very versatile and expressive with how you can play her neutral. Traps are a necessary part of Naoto's game plan, but even though they're meant to protect her, it's important that she protects them too. Letting your traps just be destroyed kinda defeats the purpose of the move, so make sure you're taking care of them and they'll take care of you. On to the supers. 236, 236A or B Anti-S SP Pistol has two variants, each costing the standard of 50 meter. The A version is fast and does slightly more damage, giving it use as a general purpose combo ender.
Ready?
Even from full screen, a super cancel from Snipe can net decent damage. The B version is slower and does less damage. Due to the startup, it can be difficult to find ways to combo into this outside of the corner, and even then you're often sacrificing damage to do so. However, it has a big advantage in terms of the fate meter. This thing takes away 6 fate at once when it connects, compared to the A version's 0. Much like the EX gunshots, the super is not affected by the rule of move's fate count depletion being lowered to 1 if used in a combo. For many supers, if you perform the input, usually a double quarter circle, and press A plus B, you can spend extra meter for an EX version of the super.
Ready?
These incur a cost of 25 extra meter, 75 in total, which is pretty expensive considering your cap is 100, so is Naoto's Anti-S SP Pistol worth enhancing? The answer is yes, with a capital YES. 236 236A plus B is a god super that combines basically every positive aspect of the two versions. You get the A version's combo-friendly startup speed combined with the 6 fate removal of the B version, along with extra damage and the status ailments of both. A pistol inflicts silence on hits, and B pistol inflicts fear. With the EX version, you get both at once, and this is a powerful combination. Silence prevents characters from using their persona, similar to being persona broken, and fear causes every hit to be a fatal counter. Together, these make for a brutal couple of seconds where any character hit by this super can't burst, can't use a chunk of their own supers, can't tech throws since fear removes the ability to do that for some reason, and any attack can lead to high damage with blight loops thanks to the guaranteed fatal counter. Shit, some characters even lose access to their furious actions when silenced, like Naoto herself, which makes this combo of ailments even scarier, especially when you remember that you're 6 fate down after it hits. EX Anti-SP Pistol is the main way Naoto sets up those JC mix-ups I mentioned. Thanks to the fear ailment, Rising JA obtains enough hit stun to be comboed off of, which is what enables the fuzzy JA combos to work. Doubly terrifying since she can get a safe jump off this super. Finally, let's get to Naoto's other two supers, Hamaon and Mudon. These supers are the trademark attacks of Naoto in Persona 4, so how do they work here?
Here goes! Be engulfed in light!
They do 0 damage. Wow, that sucks. Alright, I'm joking. Both Hamaon and Mudon exist to be used for one primary purpose, and that purpose reveals itself once the fate meter counts down fully. When that skull is red and the number is at 0...
Initiate! Come on! The characters are strong.
Bam. Both Hamaon and Mudon become instant kills. Don't get it twisted, this game has an IK system that every character has access to, but Naoto's Hamaon and Mudon instant kills are their own unique beast. Even if you're at full HP, having 0 fate will guarantee death on every character if one of those supers connects. Just like that, the Naoto metagame opens up. Knowing that Naoto can potentially upturn a round with one combo regardless of the opponent's health, it shapes how you play this character in some big ways. Hamaon and Mudon are both super simple to combo into and work in various Naoto routes. The two supers themselves are interesting because besides sharing the instant kill property, they're fairly different. Mudon will completely whiff on characters who are on the ground, even those on the taller side like Narukami and Margaret.
Initiate! Mudon!
In return, it's fully air unblockable, which can make it a decent anti-air and enable some cool resets. Hamaon, on the other hand, locks the opponent down in massive block stun, during which Naoto can actually attack and force you into mix-ups. It has more limited range, but you can perform the EX version to amend that as EX Hamaon tracks. Something important to remember about Hamaon and Mudon IKs is that you can't immediately do it once the counter hits 0, you have to wait for the skull to indicate that the opponent is marked for death, and this only happens when the opponent exits hit stun after their fate is lowered to 0. This is to prevent Naoto from doing combos that take the opponent down to 0 fate and then instantly ice them, which is an understandable limitation. Fate manipulation is one of the most involved and interesting parts of playing Naoto in my opinion. It's an all too common experience to take the opponent down to 0 fate when their health is low enough that realistically, you'd be able to kill them with a regular combo anyway. In that sense, the Fate stuff might seem completely redundant, but I think that something that matters a lot is the sheer ease of it. Naoto Hamaon and Mudon combos are dumb simple. You can do something as easy as 5C, 2C into either super, and the fact that this can kill the opponent at any time is pretty insane. Personally, I've found that in a lot of Zero Fate scenarios, my opponent is usually at around or below 40% health, and while it may seem like a waste to IK them while they're so low, it's also pretty nice to be able to do the most simple day 1 Naoto confirm off of any hit and kill them for it. Sure, killing at 40% is not a Naoto only thing, other characters can certainly do that, but I appreciate how easy it is for Naoto. Even off a simple throw you can score an instant kill, and hey, Naoto just so happens to have a super that inflicts the fear ailment, which makes breaking throws impossible. If you're not a fan of doing an instant kill on an opponent with less than half their health, there are some more ways to play around with the Fate counter. Fate is replenished by a character between rounds, but how much is restored varies. If a character is IK'd by Naoto in a round, they begin the next round with all 13 of their Fate given back. If Naoto did not end the round with an IK, then in the next round, the opponent will receive half of however much Fate they lost in the prior round. This means that the lowest amount of Fate you can begin a round with is 7, which Naoto can very easily chop off thanks to B and EX anti-S SP pistol taking off 6 at once. If you play your cards right, there's potential for Naoto to win the first round of a game while lowering Fate to 0, then churn out a quick win in the second round with an IK, which means that sometimes it's better to end a round normally instead of with an IK. Something to be careful about is that EX anti-SP pistol's final hit needs to connect before the round ends for the Fate to be removed. If the opponent's health is brought to 0 before the final hit connects, they won't lose the 6 Fate, so pick your combo routes carefully at any given health. The Fate counter also makes Naoto great at pulling off comebacks, especially when combined with the game's own comeback mechanic, Awakening. Upon hitting 35% HP, characters enter Awakening state, which grants a defensive boost and supplies extra meter. Your cap is raised from 100 to 150, and you instantly get 50 in your tank. Given Naoto is already in one of the lowest health brackets with 8500 HP, the extra defense is helpful. In addition to those benefits, every character gains access to a new super known as an Awakening skill. Naoto's Awakening skill, Raid, is already pretty good in a vacuum, but when it comes to lowering Fate, it's fucking unmatched. So upon activating Naoto's Awakening skill, Naoto will aim her gun and begin walking forward. Only forward. She can't turn around, remember that. Hitting A or B will fire 2 different kinds of bullets. At any point during the super, you can end it by hitting C or D for a big ol' kick that knocks the opponent around like a pinball and does great damage. The bullets fired with A do more damage, but the bullets fired with B remove Fate. 2 Fate per bullet. Normally, Naoto can fire 3 bullets with this super, but by using the EX version, she can fire up to 5, meaning this super by itself allows for a potential loss of 10 Fate from the opponent, the most she can take off with a single attack. Naoto in Awakening is extremely powerful when you combine these factors. The biggest thing holding her back and keeping her from being able to exploit this IK as much as she could is the sheer cost. As mentioned prior, the 2 moves that take off the most Fate are the anti-S SP pistol and her Awakening skill. Both cost 50 meter at the least, with the better versions of these supers costing 75, and remember, Naoto already needs at least 50 meter to do her IK supers. Hamaon and Mudon are an investment, an expensive one, and while she already has strong meter build, the extra meter she gets in Awakening is indispensable for letting her exploit her instant kills. Unfortunately, Awakening does have one big issue, which is that a character cannot enter Awakening while in hit stun. Keeping this in mind, it's more than possible to simply do a combo that kills the opponent before they can enter Awakening, which renders all the benefits I talked about moot, although the existence of burst does give you a way to get around this. Naoto's IKs are very strong, and it's more than possible to center a game plan around Fate removal, but what I like about her and why I think she's really well designed is that it's not the entirety of her game plan. Many of her most important moves remove Fate, but they serve other purposes to make them strong. She doesn't have any tool that feels like it only exists for the sake of Fate. It's more than possible to play without focusing on the Fate counter, and while I don't think it should be ignored entirely, Naoto can certainly compete without it. Blight routes give her extremely strong damage output, and she has ways to bait DPs or force fatal hits for big returns without needing to focus on taking away Fate. At the end of the day, you can play her as you wish. You aren't pigeonholed into one linear game plan, and I like that. Ordinarily, this is where I would end the video, but if you're familiar with this game, you know I can't without talking about Shadow Naoto.
I'll do this.
Shadow types are alternate versions of the characters that you can choose on the character select. Every character on the roster has a shadow type variant aside from Adachi, Marie, Margaret, Elizabeth, Sho, Minazuki, and Shadow Labris. That last one's a bit confusing. There's a character on the roster named Labris and she has a shadow type variant, but there's also a separate character named Shadow Labris with a different persona and modified moveset. Don't worry about it, we'll get to that when we get to it. Shadow type variants have identical movesets, and the way they differ to normal characters is rooted in a slightly altered set of system mechanics. First off, shadow types of characters who were in vanilla P4A have different auto combos. These auto combos are actually taken directly from vanilla, which is kinda cool.
Nothing. Time to move.
Shadow types also do slightly less damage on their attacks and don't enter awakening status. To make up for this, all shadow types have 1000 extra HP, with the exception of Shadow Kanji and Akihiko who only get 500 extra, and they have access to their awakening skills at all times. Basically, Shadow Naoto has 9500 HP and can use her awakening skill whenever she pleases without an HP restriction, but will never gain the defense boost from awakening. Where shadow types truly differ is in the way that they use meter. Since they don't have access to awakening, it means every shadow character's meter cap is 100, no matter what. However, shadow type characters also have access to Shadow Frenzy. When going into Frenzy, your meter is turned into a timer of sorts. It ticks down slowly and will also go down if you perform actions that normally cost meter like supers. What makes this so strong is that it effectively lets you use your supers at any point, no matter how much meter you've got. Shadow Frenzy can be activated regardless of how much meter you have, since the only cost is your burst, so even with just 1 meter, you can use any super in your kit.
I won't hold back.
The kicker is that Shadow Frenzy completely disables your opponent's burst for the duration. Shadow Naoto is one of the more popular shadow types, and many Naoto players pass up normal Naoto to main the shadow. The reason for this is because Naoto's kit and the existence of the fake count and instant kills synergizes frighteningly well with the shadow type character's unique benefits, especially with the buffs from the 2.0 update, which makes her into an absolute monster. Frenzied combos already offer massive damage potential thanks to the ability to cancel specials into other specials and supers. We're talking potential 50% plus routes, but for S Naoto in particular, you can use confirms into Frenzy to shave off Fate in an instant. With the special cancels allowing practical routes that use the Megiddo traps, as well as the ability to use EX Anti-SP Pistol or EX Raid, S Naoto has unbelievable Fate manipulation. With the right setup and starter, it's possible to do combos that take the opponent from 13 Fate to 0, straight up. You obviously can't kill with these combos because you need to wait for the opponent to be marked, but it's still absolutely insane to be able to do a minimum 40% and leave the opponent vulnerable to an IK on the next hit, effectively putting them in a 2-touch scenario. These work off so many different starters that basically enhance every strong part of Naoto's game plan, from snipe zoning to 2C pokes to air-to-airs with JC. A mistake as simple as taking a bullet from Naoto can lead to absolute disaster, either through taking a combo that does 40 to 60% damage, or from having your fate taken away and being put into an instant kill scenario. Even on defense, the shadow mechanics make Naoto more terrifying. EX Aim, the roll that's invincible and takes Naoto out of the corner. With S Naoto, you have the added threat of her doing that, and then popping Frenzy and killing you. Meter build is no issue for Naoto, so she'll almost always have a ton of uptime on Frenzy when she pops it, which gives her very practical access to routes that use her expensive EX supers. Of course, Shadow Naoto is not a direct upgrade in every sense. Remember, you need to spend your burst to use Frenzy, which means you're giving up a major defensive option for all that damage and fate reduction, which necessitates even more careful defense and use of the Shield of Justice if you want to preserve your burst for offensive use. S Naoto may be more unstable defensively in terms of her burst, but holy shit does she get massive reward from the mechanics of shadow types, and you're not really trading off any of Naoto's other strong tools for it. You still have your bullets and traps as great ways to control the neutral and zone, but now you get to turn into an atom bomb if you get a hit. I think there's definitely value to normal type Naoto's strengths, and being able to mount fate comebacks with Awakening is very satisfying, so really you can take your pick between them, but if you want your opponent to know that you personally hate them and genuinely desire to ruin their day, Shadow Naoto is for you. And that's Naoto and Shadow Naoto. I struggled a lot when first learning this character, and I still do struggle to be honest, but it's an extremely rewarding experience. She's not like any other character I've played, but that in of itself makes her extremely fun to figure out. It's definitely weird doing this video while still being such a novice with her, but hey, I've got time to learn, and I wasn't alone. This video would not have been possible without help from two of the best active Naoto players, Karma and RDG. Huge thanks to the both of them for the help. Thank you so much. Anyway, I don't typically make videos with the intent of getting people into any specific game, since I feel that's kind of a fruitless endeavor for a channel so small, but Persona 4 Arena Ultimax gets my full stamp of recommendation. It's so fun, so wacky, and I'm looking forward to continuing to play it, learn, and make videos on it, since I do plan to cover the entire roster. The game is available on PS4, Switch, and Steam. I know the PC port in particular is far from perfect, there's plenty of issues, but I'd say it's worth it in the end. This game is a blast, and there's a large community of people talking about it and playing it. Of course, a lot of the footage in this video is from the Persona Fight Club YouTube channel. Major shoutouts go to them, and I'll leave a link to the PFC Discord as well. Anyway, I think I'm going to take my leave now. Thank you for watching, have a great night, take care. Hey everyone, this is the point of the video where I thank all my channel members. First things first though, I want to thank once again the people who helped make this video possible, so thank you again to Karma and RDG, as well as the Persona Fight Club YouTube channel and just the Discord in general for, keeping this game alive even though it's old, and the remaster that, the version that everyone plays from 2022 is fairly flawed. And I also want to thank Naked Black Man for allowing me to use a set that he played against Waka, one of the best Shadow Naotos on his channel. Really saved my ass because I was struggling for my life to find Shadow Naoto, to get Shadow Naoto footage to use for this video of Waka. So thank you so much. Also, I want to thank my buddy Tebs for helping me in this video too with some translation stuff. Anyway, I'm really sorry that this video's taken so long. I wanted to talk about this game for a very long time, and I remember saying something about wanting to do it in the summer, around July, August, and obviously that didn't happen. To be truthful, I think that trying to find the time to fucking learn this game and finally, sit down and play it, because I don't like making these kinds of videos if I'm not familiar with the game, or not that familiar with the game, and I haven't at least, played it a decent amount. But trying to find the time to sit down and learn this game was a nightmare for me throughout this entire year, and I think it's pretty much slowed down the pace at which I make videos so much. So hopefully things should speed up from now. I know that this channel's been super duper slow, but yeah, thank you, for the support regardless. Anyway, I think it's time to thank my amazing, wonderful channel members who all deserve hugs and kisses for the support that they so generously, give me. So thank you to Old Man Han, Cammy the Killer, Jazba, Mortis, Arg Seals, Wormy, Perfect Orange, Happy the Hap Hap, Gundog92, Gerald Say, Loose Chujin, Raymond ZX200, Nick Toyo, Basewire, Power Level Asian, Kira the Stowaway, Sonic Frontiers is a good game, Chandarin, and Isaac the Collector. Thank you all so much for the support. I really can't put into words how much it means to me. This was a very fun video to work on, and again, I'm looking forward to talking more about this game in the future because I really do think it deserves more of a spotlight. It's such a fun game and one of the most, one of the coolest adaptations of any, non-fighting game media put into a fighting game ever, I think. So yeah, again, thank you for watching. Thank you to everyone who helped make this video possible. And I love you all. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. I love you. Have a good night. Take care.